You should have come in today and signed in. Make sure you sign in on
October
the sign-in
28th,
sheet so that we can
2015.
give you credit for being here. Also, those of you that are teachers that are pretty new to the profession, you can count these types of meetings as continuing education credits or whatever. So
150 hours.
you have to have 150 hours every 5 years. So these faculty meetings, book studies, things like that always count. So you want to make sure you sign in when you have these meetings. You should have gotten a note card, and I asked for you to write a thank you to someone that you feel like deserves a pat on the back or that has done something nice for you, so that we can display those in the weekly. And if you want your name on there, you can put it. If you don't, that's fine too. So if you'll go ahead and make sure you fill that out before you leave today, and you can do more than one, and then drop it in the bucket before you leave, then I will give those to Brenda and we'll get those published. Today, our faculty meeting is going to be about some more about growth mindset. And I know a couple of weeks ago, Julie Carpenter came and presented and gave us a good introduction of what that was. And so she's going to recap just briefly what we talked about before in case we've forgotten. And then I'm going to show you a few things, and then we'll move on with what we're going to do for the rest of the day. Julie Carpenter.
Just a reminder about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Fixed mindset is someone who thinks that their brain, their intelligence can't grow, things can't get better, they don't know how to overcome obstacles or to face challenges. If people with a growth mindset are able to look at things as challenges and know that with hard work that they can overcome those challenges. Another thing that Carol Dweck says about growth mindset, last time we talked a little bit about, talking to the kids about how they work hard as opposed to how smart they are. But some of these kids have this mindset in them and have had it for so many years that they can't trust what you're saying. Last year I tried this out with my son. Some of you knew him by the name of Gage. And he was a hard worker outside of school. His parents had some horses, and he worked very hard on that. And so when I was able to bring that in and tell him that I know he knows how to work hard, I know he does it at home, and I know he can work hard on whatever it is we were doing, I could get a little bit of a spark out of him, but then he went right back downhill. So it was like pushing that boulder uphill. I made a little bit of gain before the end of the year, but I didn't get him up to the top. But it takes us over and over and over talking to them, because we're asking them to give up their comfort and look at themselves in a different light. So.
Thank you. And she also, something that kind of triggered my memory is she showed that bicycle video last time. So remember when they were learning to ride the bike and it was, the gears were turned and welded separately, so that's kind of a good example of that. I'm going to show you a couple of videos today that kind of, I guess, recaps what Julie taught us last time, and it may also give us some new information, so hopefully technology gods are with me today.
People who have a growth mindset believe that intelligence can be developed, while people with a fixed mindset believe that intelligence is a fixed trait. People with a fixed mindset think of intelligence kind of like eye color. They believe that you're born with a certain amount of intelligence and you can't do much to change that. People with a growth mindset think of intelligence more like a muscle. They understand that when you put in effort and challenge yourself, you can get smarter. Just like when you put in effort at the gym and challenge yourself by lifting heavier weights to make your muscles stronger. Think about this statement. You can learn new things, but you can't really change your basic intelligence. People who really agree with this statement have a fixed mindset. People who really disagree with this statement have a growth mindset. And of course, people might be somewhere in the middle. It turns out that the more students disagree with statements like these, the more they have a growth mindset, the better they do in school. This is because students with a growth mindset approach school differently than students with a fixed mindset. They have different goals in school. The main goal for students with a fixed mindset is to show how smart they are, or to hide how unintelligent they are. This makes sense if you think that intelligence is something you either have or you don't have. You want to show that you have it. Students with a fixed mindset will avoid asking questions when they don't understand something because they want to preserve the image that they are smart, or hide that they're not smart. But the main goal for students with a growth mindset is to learn. This also makes a lot of sense. If you think that intelligence is something you can develop, the way you develop your intelligence is by learning new things. So students with a growth mindset will ask questions when they don't understand something, because that's how they'll learn. Similarly, students with a fixed mindset view effort negatively. They think, if I have to try, I must not be very smart at this. While students with a growth mindset view effort as the way that you learn, the way that you get smarter. Where you'll really see a difference in students with fixed and growth mindsets is when they are faced with a challenge or setback. Students with a fixed mindset will give up because they think their setback means they're not smart. But students with a growth mindset actually like challenges. If they already knew how to do something, it wouldn't be an opportunity to learn, to develop their intelligence. Given that students with a growth mindset try harder in school, especially in the face of a challenge, it's no surprise that they do better in school.
I'm going to show you one more video. It's about 2 minutes.
A growth mindset focuses students on learning rather than simply performing well. You can even see this when you look inside the brain. In one study, scientists brought people into the lab. The scientists put an EEG cap on participants' heads to measure how active their brains were. While scientists were measuring brain activation, they asked participants a trivia question. Participants gave their answer, and then the scientists told them if they were right or wrong. In other words, they were given performance feedback. The scientists found that the participants with a growth mindset and with a fixed mindset both had active brains when they were told whether they were right or wrong. So all participants paid attention to the performance feedback. What's interesting is what happened next. Participants were then told the correct answer. And again, the scientists looked at how active the participants' brains were. The brains of people with a growth mindset were significantly more active than the brains of people with a fixed mindset. People with a fixed mindset were tuning out after they found out if they were right or wrong. Even if they were wrong, they weren't interested in learning the correct answer. At the end of the study, the scientists gave participants a pop quiz with the same trivia questions. Not surprisingly, the people with a growth mindset did better. In another study, researchers were interested in the kind of feedback people would seek out after they struggled. Researchers gave participants a difficult test and then told the participants that they hadn't done well on the test. Then they gave them a choice. Did they want to look at the test of people who had done worse than them, or the tests of people who had done better? People with the growth mindset chose to learn from people who had done better than them. But people with a fixed mindset seemed more interested in making themselves feel better. They looked at the tests of people who had done worse. A study with junior high students looked at the relationship of fixed versus growth mindsets and achievement in math, a subject that many students find challenging. Students with a growth mindset earned higher math grades over time compared to students with a fixed mindset. Mindsets have also been shown to predict who takes more advanced courses. In a study with middle school students, those with a growth mindset were more likely to be placed into advanced math over time. And recently, several large-scale studies have shown the relationship between mindsets and achievement in whole countries and even in multiple countries. On the Chilean National Achievement Test, students with a growth mindset earned higher scores. The more a student disagreed with statements like, "You can learn new things, but you can't really change your basic intelligence," the more they had a growth mindset, the better they did on the achievement test. In fact, students who had a growth mindset were 3 times as likely to score in the top 20% of students nationally, while students with a fixed mindset were 4 times more likely to score in the bottom 20% of students. What's most exciting about all of this is that mindsets can change, and when students adopt a growth mindset, they do better in school.
Okay, so then after watching those videos, my question that popped in my head is, how do we get our students at junior high level to develop a growth mindset? So in thinking about that, the answer that I could come up with was intentionality is really what it boiled down to. So, I mean, we're all going to have to try to figure out what works best for our students, but in intentionality, I'm thinking praise. We have to be purposeful with our praise and make sure that we're praising the process and the learning and not the student. So when you came in today, you should have received a handout, and it says on there, it's 2 columns, and it's talking about person praise versus process praise. So there are some examples of things that you might say to students that would be person praise, and then the ones that would be process praise. And we want to lean towards those that are process praise to help students develop that growth mindset. So an example, if you said, great job, you must be smart at this, who's the subject of that sentence? You. But if you say, great job, you must have worked really hard, then really the focus becomes on the work and the effort that they put into it. And so there's just some examples there of how we can maybe rephrase some of the things that we say to students to put the emphasis on the effort and the work and not so much on the student, because when you put it on the student, it develops that fixed mindset. Another thing that we can do that's intentional is we can teach students how to think with a growth mindset. And so I'm going to give you time today, hopefully at the end, to discover or to look at the mindsetkit.org website. I know that we published that in the weekly a few times, and I don't know if all of you have looked at it, so I'm going to give you time today to look at that website. They've got some lessons on there, and I'm going to share some of those at the end before we dismiss and you go about looking at the website. But I think it's important that we teach students how to change their mindset. Mr. Williams is also going to talk in just a minute about some plans that we've come up in order to expose our students more to this philosophy of mindset. And then the last thing that I come up with on intentionality is just reframing the statements that students make. There's a bulletin board at the end of A Hall. Julie Carpenter was instrumental in helping get that up. It was shared at one of our administrator meetings. And some of the things that students say, they may say, I'm not good at this. And if they say that, that's again on them, and it's a fixed mindset. But instead they should say things like, what is it that I'm missing? Or they might say, if I'm having problems, I just give up. And instead they should say something like, I'll use some of the strategies we've learned. Or this is too hard, they could replace that with, this may take some time and effort, but I can do this. I make a mistake. Okay, well, everybody makes mistakes, but what we do is we learn from our mistakes. So you rephrase the way that they're thinking so that they don't realize that they don't think that it's just an end and that they're not smart, but instead we're helping them realize that it's a process. And so those are 3 things of intentionality I think that we can work on. And I lost my paper. So at this time, I invited Dr. Hateris to come over. She has been instrumental also in helping us develop the growth mindset philosophy as a district, and so she wanted to share some things with you, and so I'm going to turn it over to her.
Okay, thank you. Please give maybe a count two until we run out. I don't know if y'all are, you know that your campus was the star in an article that was in this magazine, and it came out, it says fall 2015. This article that they're handing out was one that I was asked to write. And the junior high last year participated in a research study with Stanford University. And then our high school actually did their intervention, the treatment of it. And so I just highlighted the part that talks about our schools. And I think that's pretty cool that y'all are in a statewide magazine, and also our high school is. So I think it's good. I shared this with the board, I guess, last week or something, and they went, oh, wow, this is really neat. You need to put this in the dentist office. And I thought, so I guess if I put this in the dentist office, people will actually read the article. I kind of don't think so. I always go for the new recipes and the diet, the diet stuff. So, but who knows? Maybe somebody else wants to read educational stuff. But read the highlighted parts. I just think it's pretty good. I think Jeff took, Mr. Barker designated that little project for Jeff to head that up. And so Mr. Williams took care of that for the district, for the junior high, so I think that's a big deal.
His name's in there.
Yes, Dana.
And that was, we posted that on Facebook too, so that parents would realize the great things.
Way to go, way to go.
Yay! Hey, junior high, talk for yourself. Give you just a minute to read some of that.
We got this in the email, didn't we? Yeah.
Could you call out every copy?
One already did it. Here, she can answer the phone. We tried doing it, your PDF, and it was a yellow. So, okay, and, Madeline, if you, what Mr. Barker just said, in this, and this, I got this from the PERTS lab, and I love it, like, what he was giving you things that when kids say they can't do it, what they really stress is that we say, you know, like, tell me something you can't do like your kids. What would kids say? Yes. Yeah. And we come back and say, yet. Do you see the blue yet? So if they ever say that, you just say yet. Because nobody can do something, I mean, all of us can't do something, and we need somebody to say yet. And then we help them find the way. I loved everything that you've said and everything that you've said. Y'all are so on the, on target that I have not one, but 3 note cards of stuff I was going to say, and they already took care of the first one. Because it is something that we can develop. But I think part of it, it's not, what's new is that it's been done real research and it shows real results. That's what's new. I think most of us have always had a gut feeling that this works. And I kind of always thought it was belief in students, and that you believe and you get them to believe in themselves. But it's also belief in yourself. I want two things. If we can know the students that you believe in them, and then you know that we all believe, you know, your colleagues and your administrators all believe in you, because I want you to project that you're the best dadgum Spanish teacher, PE teacher, English teacher that they've got, and that they're going to get there just because of you know, but they're going to get there because they're going to get there because they're good. And so if you can get that, that's a major thing to help them develop that. And I would dare say that most of our kids got that from us, because we were showing that we believed in them and believed in their abilities, and you know, they're our progeny, of course they're smart, you know. But some of our kids that have parents that either they only have one parent at home, or maybe they don't have any parents at home because both their parents are working 2 or 3 or 4 jobs, they're not getting that from their parents. So yes, we once again are parents for this. But this is something that really pays off. Just like you said, your son. I mean, she took that upon herself to be that person for him. And if we all very intentionally do it, it will make a difference for the whole campus. It'll make a difference for the whole school district. But I want y'all to do one little exercise, and you can just do it with your table group, or y'all can do y'all 3 together. I think that, you know, we tend to think it's just about academic intelligence, but it's also about artistic ability, it's also about athletic ability, and it's about personalities. So if you would discuss those things with your group and say whether you think you have more of a fixed mindset or growth mindset, or somewhere in between. Most of us are stages, you know, just like autism, there's that spectrum, so we've got a spectrum here going. But do general intelligence, athletic ability, artistic ability, and personality, and discuss whether you're fixed or growth with just your little table partners or seat partners.
Well, then, okay, if they missed it today, maybe they'd get the credit. I'm not Started what? Yeah, we can start again. It doesn't matter how much. Do you have a growth mindset? No, I just love it. I can't do nothing. I don't want to. I love I'm trying to make it grow. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I haven't been. Yeah,
I did that.
but-
I did that. A couple of summers ago with his and we always thought my sister was and she was like, well, it was so my sister years turned out better than mine, and she was disappointed because she's used to me.
So I made her actually an artist with her stuff hanging in galleries. Oh, wow. And I like to color. And I take these dull coloring books and I copy them onto different types of paper. I use color pencils and water.
Let's say you're done, whether you are or not. How many have a fixed, no, let's say how many, let's see, how many have a fixed mindset on growing your athletic ability? Raise your hand. Fixed mindset, don't think you can change. Okay, where are our coaches? Are they, who's coaching you? Okay, what are y'all gonna tell them about that?
You can't yet.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because coaches of all people know, and coaches are sometimes, because they gotta get those athletic teams, whether they have talent or not, they know that their job might depend on whether they win a few games that year. So coaches are always, you know, whether they believe they have it or not, they're always pumping them up. You know, we gotta get there. You can do it. We gotta do this. So, and one of the best examples just is just like how you grow muscles just by lifting weights. You get stronger by lifting weights and that kind of stuff. So when you're talking to your kids, give them that example, how you grow your muscle. Your brain is a muscle too, and we're growing your brain muscle. So, okay, what about artistic ability? If you're fixed, raise your hand. Artistic ability. What was that? Was that just a barely raise? Okay, she didn't be notified.
She's in the middle.
Okay. Okay, and what about personality? Y'all don't have fixed on personality?
Oh, no, we're growing.
See, I'm fixed. Just 3 of us, 2 of us?
I'm pretty fit. Junior high.
Well, no, your personality. Yeah, you do have to change. But my deal was, sometimes I have a tendency to put my foot in the mouth, and I just think, oh, I'm just gonna always be that way, but I can change, so. If y'all notice that I'm putting my foot in my mouth less often, just say, well, you're doing so good. I appreciate that. So, because, and sometimes if you don't want to grow, you know, you can just say, oh, that's just the way it is, and that's an excuse not to grow. And when we were going through all these videos, I loved the one, you know, when it was doing the growth mindset, people would do this, and the fixed mindset people would do this, and the growth mindset people always want to learn more. And to me, if I always say, I don't know that, that's my first step to getting rid of that pride, because I'll stand up and say, I don't know anything about that. But that frees me up of having to prove that I know anything, and then I'm real free to learn. You know, it's like the shackles are off, and I can learn. That's what works for me. Matter of fact, early on, I had a lawyer friend that just said at a party, he said, well, she'll say, she didn't know, whatever it is, you know, and he had a real big pride deal, and I'm going, well, heck, if I don't know, you know, I don't have any pride about it. And I'll just say that, because that frees me up so I can learn. But I just think it's real funny. Have y'all thought back of some times in your own life where you've actually seen this in action and you didn't know what it was? Can you think of anything where you had a growth mindset and you didn't know what it was at the time? Okay, do you feel like sharing?
I guess when you're talking about personality, I think used to, I was probably fixed with my personality. But my friend, my best friend that I taught with in Louisville, she always would work on herself, and she would make faces when I would do things that were annoying, and I would know to like stop, and I started fixing myself. So I would think about it, and what had happened, because we were together for 4 years and we still talk, we're like we're friends. And
that
we
wasn't
talked about
coaching,
the
that was
things
a
that
coaching
we're
friend.
working
Yeah.
on.
No, I
Yeah.
do that to her all the time.
I'm a switch. I just like.
Yeah, okay.
It's selective, okay? You go, Dylan.
I like to aggravate them.
Yeah, well, I know when I was in high school and I had some awesome math teachers and we actually did math. I know you're gonna find this hard to believe, an hour to an hour and a half a day. I mean, we didn't have AP then, it was honors. And it was just, we just worked on it so hard. And I had a national exam and I scored like 85%, and then 2 years later I scored 95%. And I consciously remember saying, oh, you can't do that. You know, because basically that would be like an IQ test and I grew 10 points. Do you think you can do that? I didn't think you could do that, but you can do that. But we were working all the time. I mean, we actually had the attitude that you couldn't throw anything at us that we couldn't do, because yes, we drilled and killed all the time. I mean, we had all these exercises and we did every problem that you could throw at anybody we had done. And so, you know, I kind of experienced that in my own life too, but I remember when this all came back to me, and actually this summer I sent off to get my records. I went to Odessa High, and of course my records are so old that they got rid of all the extraneous stuff. All they have is, I'm sure they didn't even have my shot record anymore. All they had was just the one-page transcript. And so that's all there was, because I thought, what test was that? I wanted to just find out. It was probably our test of basic skills or something like that, except it was just math, so I don't know what it was. Anybody have any idea? Francis, did you work in testing or anything? Okay. So, but I've seen that in my own life there. And then I wanted to give y'all, Mr. Barker has made sure you know where the website is. And there is all kinds of information right out there on the web about growth mindset. And you always want to go to the Stanford University. That's the one where they've done the research, like that's the source. That's where it started with this Carol Dweck. And they used to talk about mindset toolkit. So I always want to write mindsettoolkit.org. Well, it's mindset. And just the way I remember that, it's got 10 letters in it, mindset.org. So don't go Mindset Toolkit, you'll be off in somebody else's venue. Stay with Stanford until they've got everything that you're interested in. They actually have a teacher resource page, and they've got lesson plans. It is K through 12. It's different coursework. You know, I'm sure they have even PE. I don't know if they have Spanish, but I would think they would.
You can search by that coursework.
Yeah, you can search for the course, whatever he said, I can't get it out. And then you can also upload some of your own lessons if you want that. And then we're going to have an opportunity to participate in some growth mindset evaluations for teachers and stuff too, I think a little later. And so we'll be participating again with Stanford University. So learn all you can, see what you can do, teach your kids, talk to each other and see what you see. But to me, it's just basic believing in the kids and getting them to believe in themselves. But I wanted to give you 2 examples. I know, is this your book?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is the book that Carol Dweck wrote, and it's actually, I think it's 2006.
I think so.
And all the principals have this, so you can borrow theirs if you want. In our administration meetings, they're showing us different things, what they think is important. And it's funny, when I was reading it, I highlighted, or I like to write in books too, and almost every one that the principals have brought up, except for 2, is something that I'd already highlighted too. So I guess great minds think alike, you know. So I bet it would be the same for y'all. But I wanted to give you 2 personal examples of this as well, growth mindset and making it work. When I was a superintendent in another district in Region 14, we had participated with our service center, and at the Region 14's in Abilene. And we had done all this math training. Well, then at the end of the year, when we had done our standardized test, I was looking at our results and then some schools, districts that were similar to ours. And I noticed they had made greater gains. You know, they were making 6, 8, 10-point gains, and we didn't. We were just still stagnant. And I just kept looking and going, okay, what's wrong with this? And finally I called the service center, and the math whiz there was a lady named Kathy Hale. And I said, okay, Kathy, I've known you a long time, because I'd known her when I was a principal there, and then I had moved off to Mahayan. I was assistant superintendent. I'd actually paid her to come do some training for me in Region 12, and then I was back in Region 14. I said, we did all this intensive training that these other schools did, and we didn't get the gains that they got. I said, what's the deal? Why didn't we get it? And she was really, really quiet, and then she said, your teachers don't believe your kids can do it. And you know, when you hear something and it's, you just know in your heart of hearts that that's the truth, that's the way that hit me. I just went, oh my goodness. And so that's why I said the kids knowing that you believe in them is very, very important. I can guarantee if a coach wants to win a game, they show those kids that they believe in them. And then the other example I wanted to give you is with my own son. If you've been here longer than 2 years, you've already heard this story, but I'll tell it again for the newbies. I have 3 boys. The first 2 tested when they were in school. They were gifted and talented, and they're not gifted. They're kind of talented in some areas, very few. And but they were just smart kids who did school well, and they got in the GT program. Then here comes number 3, and it turns out that he's dyslexic. And he actually probably is more gifted than the other 2, but he's gifted kinesthetically. You know, he'll land on his feet. It doesn't matter what. He can be snowboarding and his helmet will be bent from something, and he's getting up, walking, and doing it again. But we don't know how to test for those kind of things, or we choose not to in our school systems. But he, when he was in college, he said, Mom, he said, he was talking about one of his teachers, he said, she's just like you. She thinks I can do anything. And I kind of went, whoa, that just hit me, and I thought, he doesn't know that I really didn't believe that. I mean, I suffered. I know how hard it was for him in school. I know what I did, asking every day in the 9th grade, okay, what'd you do in class today? What do we need to do for tomorrow? What'd you do in this class? What do we need to do for tomorrow? I mean, I just had to do that to organize him and make sure he didn't fall behind. And I knew he tried 3 times harder than his older brothers, spent more effort for less results because of the dyslexia. And I thought that just made me feel like I should get the Mother of the Year award because he believed that that's what I believed. And I'm just telling you, and this was the only place I've ever, you know, I've said this in our town, but I've never said it anyplace else. I guess I think he's old enough now that if he heard it, it wouldn't hurt his feelings. But y'all still don't need to tell him. And it's just very important if they think that you believe in them. So I'm challenging you, whether you do or not, whether you choose to adopt one kid, and he's my project, if you can make them believe that you believe, you'll get some really good results. And the deal is, when you start getting the results, then you start believing, and then it just snowballs. So I've seen it work. I know when I was assistant soup at Mahia, and we had some 6th grade English teachers that one of them had only taught about 7 years, and one of them had taught 30 years. She was getting ready to leave us. And they team taught together, or they were neighbors, and then they switched kids and did all kinds of things together. And their points, way back when we had the commended, they would have the highest commended, like 54% of anybody in the whole district. And they didn't think they did anything special. And of course, I'd be in and out of rings and stuff, and I had them present to all my vertical teams. And they said, well, we don't do anything. I said, yes, you do. You do this, 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 this. You know, when you're doing it, sometimes you don't realize how awesome you are and what you're doing. But basically, they told their kids that they knew they could do it, and by golly, we're good teachers, and we're going to get you there. So that's where I came up with, you don't believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself and are having trouble, you've got 3 wonderful administrators here. Go up and talk to them and say, you know, I'm having a confidence issue right now, and they'll talk you through it. And they'll tell you the things that you are doing well. Or go to a colleague and say, you know, I just don't feel like I'm doing it sometimes, because we all get deflated. But you need somebody that's seeing you and says, yes, you can. This is what I've seen you do every day. So build each other up. But it'll pay off. But these teachers, the main thing they did is they believed in those kids from day one and said, this is where we're going to get, and they got them all there. And the kids believed them. So I love the work y'all are doing. Y'all are kind of one of our leaders in the district, so thank you, and I think that's due to y'all's leadership. Y'all got great leadership here, and we appreciate everything y'all are doing and everything they're doing.
Yeah,
So
it's
thank you.
because of them, not because of us.
Well, see, he's building me up here. Maybe start that way. Okay, thank you. Do y'all have any questions, or anybody want to add to the conversation? Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Williams, thank you, Dr. Tracy. Mr. Williams is going to talk to you about kind of some ways that we're going to get the growth mindset initiative going in our student body. And so I'm going to let him come up and present.
Well, in my looking at growth mindset and fix, I believe that all of our kids that we have in this school and this district are growth mindset in one way or another. we have lots of kids that struggle every single day and they make it through every single day. In that sense, they're choosing to survive. Home life, work, being here at school, that is a growth mindset. They are trying to figure out how to get through it. That is what they're doing every single day. It doesn't matter if they make an A, a C, a 0, their grades are tanked, or they're making the top. They've chosen to be students. They've chosen to succeed. That growth mindset needs to be put into every day and everything they do. In the classroom, in succeeding in whatever their hobbies are. We have students that sit down at the lunch table with them. It's been about 2 weeks. No, it's been about 2 months. Mr. Williams, do you know how to do a triple dolly twist axle on a skateboard? Nope. I have no earthly idea. How do you do it? You go look it up, Mr. Williams. And they've asked me about it every week. Hey, have you looked up how to do it? And I said, nope, I didn't look it up. You told me how to do it. Oh, yeah, I did. So they know how to push us as well as we can push them to succeed. And we need to do that. We're going to take that growth mindset and we're going to implement it into a couple of our classes. I've contacted about 3 of our elected teachers. We're going to work on it in our health, our teen leadership, as well as our outdoor ed, and in our Ms. Crier's classes also. And we're going to work at implementing a couple of these lessons every 2 weeks or every other week or so with our kids. Not just with us as teachers and pumping our kids up and being positive with them, but with the kids and turning them around. And then with what we implement in our classrooms, in those classrooms, and what you implement as a teacher and as a person interested in this kid, let's change this for a huge growth mindset on our campus. Okay? As you look through and do some research here in a little while on the toolkit, look at where those lessons are you can implement, or how can you twist it to implement it into your classroom, into that same lesson. Not creating a new lesson. How do you implement it and put 2 of them together? And when you do that, your kids are going to see how well you're working at striving to make them succeed, and that's what we want. So that's the first part that I have on the growth mindset. We're going to implement that into Coach Tomlin's class, Ms. Crier's class, and Ms. Dixon's classes. We're going to implement those and try those. It's new for us. We've got to try and we've got to be willing to work at it. So it's going to be new for us to do that. Are we going to work slow at it? As you read through all of these processes and read through the book, growth mindset is not set into a student, or fixed mindset is not set into a student in 1 day. It's not set in 2 days. It takes time to change that one way or another. You and I, you were visiting with your coworkers before I go, you and I have had both sides, fixed and growth. And it didn't happen overnight. And it's not going to change overnight. So it's going to be slow. It's going to be slow for us to figure out how to do it and implement it. It's going to be a slow process. But if we continually move forward, it will change. One of the things that... Can I go on to the next one? Okay. One of the pieces I did constantly in the classroom, and we were talking about this the other day, we're talking about ZAP, and I've kind of jumped from growth mindset a little bit to our ZAP and to our grades. One of the things I see when kids come into my office, I don't know what my grades are, Mr. Williams. I ain't got a progress report. I know the answer to that, okay? I'm telling you what a kid tells me. I know the answer to that. The answer is you've told them multiple times. You've told them multiple times before they ever came to my office for whatever I'm visiting with. One of the pieces that I implement into my classroom as a teacher that I think may help your students, they're visual learners, they're visual students, okay? I know a couple of you have done this in classrooms in the past. I know I've visited with a few of you to do this, but that is, let's see if I can, how would you like to be able to show your kids every week what they're making? Their grades. And they have to do it, not necessarily you handing them a paper. Would you like your students to take over ownership over their grades and go look at it every week? Would that help in some of your classes? Okay? It's that ownership piece. So what we're going to do...
And some of you already do that.
And
but
some of you
we
do
can
that.
show you a way to do it, Discover.
And I have asked permission. In your grade book, if you will go to Teacher Access, and I had to be trained on how to work y'all's grade book, because it's been a while since I've been out of grade book. Go to My Grade Book, get your grades, and then we're going to do reports for all classes. And we are going to slide down to grade book sheet report. And then we're going to create a new one. And I'm going to create a new template. Add a new template. Right here. I'm going to give it a name. And I'm going to call this weekly grades. I want to show for this grading term. So for this grading term, or I can pick the dates between such and such and such and such. For our grading term here, which is this one, I want to show just the student's ID number. I do not want to show their name. And that will be evident in a few minutes. Show assignments, grade marks for their term marks, and I'm going to hit save. Once you set that, it's going to be there. You have 3 on here that we can delete at a different time. But we're going to go into grade.
Oh, that's fine.
And I'm going to print it.
Yeah, you know how to do that, right? I did a little bit.
And I'll work with anybody and everybody to try to get this set. You can ask any, if you quick at doing this, it's just setting through this. I know it works. Running.
This is the third one you've already done.
Probably. It is. Okay. You can put it into your Excel, export it into Excel, or that's what you're going to see. That's what the kids are going to see. It's going to have their ID number. It's going to have the assignment. And this was second grade mark, whatever assignment that was. And that was what their grade was. Okay? And then it's also going to show if they're missing what grade you placed in. What I did from there was I put it in a sleeve. Okay? And then I took those sleeves and I either stuck them to a door or to a wall in the back of the room. And then every Monday, for my kids at high school, I did Tuesdays. Because it was the day after the day we came back from the weekend. But I promised them every Tuesday this will be posted. And I had one for first period, second period, third period, fourth period on the back wall. That way the kid could go look at their grades once a week. And you updated it once a week. A lot of our kids have a hard time getting online. I know we have the app. I know they can go do that. Some of them, the technology is rough for them to get to. But this is a physical piece. The student comes in, I don't know what I'm making. Have you looked at the backboard? Am I missing anything? Go look at the back and see where you're at. Okay? It's their student ID number, so it's not going against confidentiality. They can go look. It says, hey, I got a 0. I'm missing something. What am I missing? Mr. Miller, I got a 0 for assignment 2. That's what they usually did. Mr. Williams, I got a 0 for assignment 2. I'm missing assignment 2. I don't know what assignment 2 is. What did it say? You have to teach them how to read this. Okay? You're going to have to teach them how to read this. But after a while, and if multiple teachers do this, the kids know to go look for their grades at the back of the room. Okay? To help them see where they're at. Maybe it'll help with the kids that are missing papers. They said they turned it in. I promise I turned it in. I visited with a kid today that is missing lots of work. Lots of work. I believe in him. I believe that he can do it. But he's missing lots of work. Just send it home with me, Mr. Williams. I'll get it done. Don't believe it'll get done. I'm going to put you right here. We're going to do it. I believe you can do it. What can I do for you? Okay. I didn't know I was missing that much work. I turned it in. Teacher lost it.
That's like their library books.
Okay.
That's like their library books.
So we looked at a different class. I thought maybe it was the teacher's fault. I really did. I looked at a different teacher. Same thing. Maybe it's 2 teachers. I looked at a 3rd teacher. It's all of his teachers. Okay? So, the missing work is not in that. But maybe this will help them a little bit. Okay? Believe in your students to take care of their own work. Give them the tools to believe in themselves to do it too.
If you have a colored printer, there's a little bit more different way to do it. You can color code them.
You
too.
can, but color costs. I just did black and white and stuck on the back. The other thing I did was the sleeves. The sleeves, I just slid, first week was here. The next week of the 6 weeks, I slid in the one in front of it, third, fourth, and got to the end of the 6 weeks, and the kid would say, I don't know what I was making. I did teach juniors, okay? I will take that. They are a little more responsible than the 7th graders. I got that. But I could go back and I say, okay, your grade has been failing every week of the 6 weeks. I put a sleeve back there every week. At the end of the 6 weeks, I took them all out. I took care of them. I trashed them. Okay? But it put it back on the student to help keep up with their grades.
Does that count as documentation availability to the, knowledge of the student in case we do have a failing student?
It's not. This is documentation that you told the student. You're
Right.
helping them.
But that it was available for
It's
them.
available. Okay. It's not getting to the parent.
Right.
The parent doesn't know the child's failing.
It's just
or missing.
another form.
It's another avenue for that child to see that. And if you're constantly updating it every week at a certain time, then great. But this puts it, you have to update it. You have to slide it in there. You have to get your grades updated to do that, which we already require. Okay?
Okay. I want to talk real quickly, we may not have time to look at that website today, but I wanted to talk to you real quickly about the ZAP initiative that we've got going on. You all have done your part at this point. We've got the students identified, we've got them into groups. Just to kind of give you a heads up, 107 7th graders have at least 1 0. So, we're going to help them get that fixed tomorrow and Thursday. But what you need to know is that when they're with the person who's helping them, that person's going to have a slip. And it's going to ask for teacher 1, teacher 2, teacher 3, teacher 4, because there's up to 4 teachers that can input data into that Google Doc. That adult is going to give them that slip, and that student is going to bring their completed work with that slip to the teacher who they owe it to. And it's going to have the timestamp and everything on it so we can document when kids are leaving. They're going to come to you and you have to approve that that work is satisfactory and that they've given it to you. If it's not, then you're not going to initial it and you're going to send them back to the study center.
When you
or
mean
to,
satisfactory, you mean it was a 3-sentence thing?
can you accept it and be able to grade it?
Okay.
I mean, you're going to probably get quality work that you would normally get. So you can't expect them to make hundreds if they're not normally 100 students.
No, but
But they're going to bring you that slip so that you can initial that they've either handed it in to you or that you're not okay with it. And then they're going to have to return back to the place that they're assigned. And that ZAP teacher, whoever's in that room, is going to get the final word from you as to whether or not that student's ready to go back to electives. So we're not dismissing them back until the teacher has given approval that that student is ready to go. But remember, we don't want to be so hard that it's impossible. And we have 107 students that are in this boat. So you need to be calling parents. I know you're tired of me saying that, but you need to contact parents. And I know they're telling me sometimes that they've not heard from a teacher about these problems. And I know that's probably not true. But we cannot allow them to have that excuse. And if I were the teacher, and I say this pretty boldly, I would be calling that parent and driving them crazy with their student missing work. Because eventually, the hope is that they're going to support us. And so, keep that in mind.
they've stopped taking your calls.
I know what boat you're in, I get it.
I was just saying, Barker's like the son
Yes.
of that. She's got it out. She's like she's a school.
I
phone
understand
school.
the-
Cell phone, so they can't like harass her.
A burner phone?
I have a burner phone for my,
Jessica, what did you?
I understand the need for the phone call and specifically talking to the parents. Will the Remind program work for that instead of a call?
If it works, then if
So,
it doesn't,
The Remind program will send a text directly to that parent. So if that is all set up and you send a text out to those specific, will that work instead of a phone call? That
if it works.
Because the
What do you
reminding
mean?
is documented.
What do you mean?
What I'm saying is
What's
if the
the
parent
parents
makes,
pay
if the situation's resolved, if you
There's
send a remind
contact.
101 and you're not getting any different of a response than you would have gotten without making the call, then it's better to make personal contact.
There's always a big handful whose numbers are disconnected and they don't have.
We have a school resource officer who I'm sure would love to help us get in contact with parents.
She go knock on some doors about some zeros.
If she knocks on doors for library books, honey, yeah, she'll go knock on.
There are employees, and I really don't like walking into a school and seeing them sitting and reading the newspaper. I expect everybody to work, my gauge on anybody is I expect them all to work as hard as a teacher works. That's maintenance people, that's technology, that's definitely myself. And so you know how hard you work, our SROs need to work just as hard as you work. So that is very much within your principal's purview. So you are
Okay.
being supported.
Can I, one quick question, what about zeros that are in electives?
I'm not pulling those right now. If I did that, I would have probably 250 seventh graders.
Okay, so just.
So you wouldn't have anybody. that would
Well, I'm
report.
just saying, just keep fixing it in the classroom.
Keep working on it in the classroom.
Okay.
I'm not trying to lessen electives, but we've
No,
got
I'm
to get
not
the
saying that, I
course
was just
fixed.
saying, do I put them in the ZAP category for mine too, or?
You would have already known at this
Okay,
point.
gotcha.
Not right now.
I do think the idea of ZAP has made a difference already, because I think the first announcement, they were like, until they were in class, and I was like, if you don't get this to me,